I previously did a video which was sort of a beginner's guide on Weber Kettle Grills. Well, today I want to kind of bump it up a notch. We're going to be talking about smoking on a Weber Kettle Grill. And yes, you can definitely smoke on a Weber Kettle Grill and the results will surprise you. Let's dive in. So right here I have the first ever Weber Kettle Grill that I bought. It's in a beautiful copper finish. I've since actually given this grill away to my neighbor, but he's letting me borrow it today for this video. There's a lot of good memories with this grill. So let's talk about what this video is going to cover. I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty details of every aspect of Weber Kettle Grill cooking. The video would simply be way too long. And I'm going to assume that you are familiar with Weber Kettle Grills and you know how to use them in their most basic setting, which is just grilling. Now, I do have other videos that I'm going to link in the description below. For example, if you are new to Weber Kettle Grills, I have a beginner's video all about Weber Kettle Grills. And likewise, I have a video that goes over smoking and wood and different wood flavors and how well they pair with different foods. Maybe you're having a hard time starting your charcoal and you can't get your Weber grill hot enough. I have a video on that too. And finally, maybe you're having a hard time adjusting the temperatures and you're wondering what these two vents actually do. Again, look in the description of this video for more detailed beginner videos. Okay, so now let's talk about smoking with the Weber Kettle Grill. Contrary to what some people will tell you, smoking with the Kettle Grill is actually really easy and they surprisingly do a very good job. I think the Weber Kettle Grill is probably the most versatile charcoal grill out there at a good price. There's a reason why everybody tries to copy it. Now, if you're having a hard time believing me, I've done a series of videos comparing the Weber Kettle Grill to the Weber Summit Kamado, which has about $1,000 price difference. And I was able to prove, both as an everyday griller and smoking up some briskets, that there wasn't necessarily $1,000 performance difference. The Weber Kettle Grill did a fantastic job. The food came out amazing, but to be fair, I still went with the Weber Summit Kamado. The Weber Summit Kamado is a better grill, but you can get great results with this guy. So let's start with the very first thing you need to consider. What are you going to be smoking? Before you light up the grill, you should have a game plan of exactly what you're going to do. For example, are you going to be doing some light smoking? Maybe just adding a hint of smoke? Are you going to be smoking a brisket for 14 hours? Or are you going to be doing some medium smoking? Maybe smoking up a whole chicken or a spatchcock chicken or something like that. Those are all things you need to consider because it's going to affect your game plan. Obviously, if you're smoking for 14 hours, the entire experience is going to be different than smoking for an hour or so. And you also have to consider the fuel. So let's talk about the fuel. Fuel is important, and a lot of people kind of overlook fuel, right? If you're just starting off smoking, I highly recommend briquettes because briquettes are more consistent. You're going to get more consistency in the bag. There's not going to be a bunch of different sizes, right? Also, briquettes have came a long way. There's different types, different manufacturers now. There's always the tried and true Kingsford's Original, which is a great bag. But if you want to try a little bit more premium charcoal briquettes, Fogo is fantastic and it's probably my personal favorite, but also Jealous Devil has really great briquettes, really large briquettes at a great value that do a fantastic job. But let's say you're feeling a little adventurous and you want to go with lump. Lump is great, lump is fantastic, but again, it's a little bit inconsistent and it really does matter what you're buying, right? You got to put your money where your mouth is. Good lump charcoal doesn't come cheap. Actually, good charcoal in general doesn't come cheap, but with briquettes, you can kind of get away with it a little bit more. Now, there's two categories to think about when you're smoking. I'm going to break them up into two different methods, and you've probably heard this method before. Indirect smoking and low and slow smoking. So indirect smoking is reserved more for short bursts of smoking, and you're not really looking to get deep smoke flavor. Usually you can smoke right on top of the coals in an indirect method, right? That's where the name comes from. When you're cooking indirectly, the food's on the opposite side of the flame. You can add in a couple of wood chunks and smoke that way. Still got to manage your temperatures though. And we'll talk about temperatures a little bit later. Low and slow is completely different. Low and slow is going to be a series of smoking for a longer duration of time at very low temperatures. Now, what does longer duration of time means? Greater than an hour or two. 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, 14 hours, and so forth. With low and slow smoking, I personally like to use a diffuser plate, which brings me to my next point, accessories that you may or may not need. I've been using diffuser plates for a while now, Weber's diffuser plates, since they basically came out. The Weber Summit Kamado comes with one, and my Master Touch Premium, which is just another fancy kettle grill, came with one as well, and that's when I was introduced to it. What I like about diffuser plates is they do exactly what the name entails. It diffuses the heat and gives you much more even, consistent smoking all around, and you get to utilize the entire grates. I'm very familiar with it and I'm very comfortable with it, and that's usually half the battle. But let me stress, you do not need a diffuser plate to smoke with the Weber Kettle Grill or get great results. There's also other things that have been around for way longer, like the slow and sear, I think it's called, which basically gives you the ability to add in some water through a reservoir and have a indirect area for your coals. It's kind of an all-in-one package. Fantastic tool, been around for a long time, tried and true, people swear by it. And then there's things that Weber gives you, which is the charcoal baskets. Utilize those. They actually help you with setting up different zones for cooking, but you can absolutely utilize them for smoking as well, indirectly smoking. And then finally, there's other methods that have been used for a very long time that requires $0 from you, no additional purchases. Things like the snake method, which literally utilizes the charcoal itself. And it's tried, it's proven, you can get extremely long times. It's wonderful for low and slow. Try the snake method. My point is, there's options out there. Whether you want to purchase things to help you or stick to the absolute basics, you're still going to get great results. And don't let people pressure you into thinking you need something in order to get great barbecue. Okay, so now let's talk about temperature. At what temperature should you be smoking at? It depends. It depends on how gentle you want the cooking environment to be, how much smoke you want to infuse into the food, and how much bad smoke you're willing to allow also get into the food. So you got to think about that. Now, really, smoking should happen at or under 250 degrees. The higher you go with the temperatures, the more you're at risk to the combustion process and producing bad smoke. Now, the lower you go on the temperatures, the more likely you're going to get good smoke and infuse good flavors. So now let's talk about smoke. What kind of smoke should you be looking for? Okay, smoke is tricky. There's a lot of different opinions out there, but typically the dark smoke, the dark gray, black smoke, that's bad smoke. That's combustion smoke. I'm not going to go into detailed information on smoke and the combustion process and the science behind it because I already did a video on it. But basically, that black combustion smoke is dirty smoke. You'll know when you've tasted dirty smoke. It tastes like ash. It tastes, kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth, and it's not good, right? It's very bitter and acidic. What does combustion smoke look like? When you're lighting your charcoal, the initial smoke that you're seeing, that dark smoke, that's actually bad smoke. And I think a lot of folks misunderstand smoking. They assume that there should be a lot of smoke in the air, right? The more smoke that you visually can see, the better. And that's actually not true. You shouldn't really be seeing a lot of smoke. There shouldn't be a huge cloud of smoke every time you open up the charcoal grill. There should be a nice thin layer of smoke, which brings me to good smoke. Blue smoke. Light blue smoke is like you've hit the perfect scenario. You are now firing on all cylinders. That's what you want to try to achieve. Again, smoke and combustion happens at different processes. You're not always going to be flatline, perfect blue thin smoke. Sometimes you'll get blue smoke. Sometimes another piece of wood is igniting and you're starting to get maybe light gray or even a little bit of white smoke, whatever. That's part of the combustion process. And that's sort of what you have to balance, right? When you're barbecuing, what can you live with and how much of it can you control? Okay, so you're probably asking, well, how do I control smoke? It's the vents. See, cooking is all about temperature and time. If you control the temperatures, you're affecting the time, but in this particular case, you're also controlling the smoke. So if you think you're getting really bad smoke, close the vents a little bit, manage your temperatures, take them below 250 degrees. There's always exceptions to the rule. Sometimes I'm smoking at 275 degrees, which I think is the absolute limit personally. Other times I'm smoking at 170 degrees, 160 degrees, and I'm just guzzling out thin blue smoke. It all really depends. And as you get more familiar with the grill and comfortable with your technique, you'll learn to do what makes sense for you. Which brings me to another question you'll probably ask: how efficient are these grills? They're not very efficient. Some folks will get Weber Kettle Grills that are a little bit more efficient than others. Maybe the tolerance was like really, really good, spot on from Weber, but they're not designed to be this like really tight fitting tolerance insulated grill. Keep that in mind. But there's mods you can do. There's a bunch of accessories you can buy to really get the most out of them. For this copper core one, I've had it for a really long time. The carbon buildup around the rim has actually been pretty good over the years, and I could smoke comfortably for around 6, 7, 7.5 hours before I have to refuel. Now my Weber Master Touch Premium, which is a fancier version of the original Weber kettle, basically has a hinged lid and it came with the diffuser plate. I can get roughly like 6 hours maybe at best with that grill before I should probably refuel it. And in the video where I compared it to the Kamado, you can see that it's plain as day. And I think that has a lot to do with the hinge lid. Weber didn't really think things through on that one. It's still a fantastic grill, and you can actually buy a seal and seal it up, and some folks will get like 8 hours on that thing. But in comparison, the Weber Summit Kamado, I smoked the brisket recently on that, and it was like 16 hours, and I was only halfway through the fuel. So I feel like it could have went 24 plus hours without refueling. And it wasn't like I dumped a whole bag of charcoal. I mean, it was pretty reasonable. So that grill is a different story. That grill is well insulated, right? It's insulated. It's a Kamado. It's a different design. It's not a kettle grill. Fantastic grill. But it's also $1,000 new. Okay, so here's a couple of things that I want you to try out for yourself. You're going to have a little bit of homework today. There's 3 different things that I want you to learn to smoke on the Weber Kettle Grill. The very first one is a steak. Yes, believe it or not, a steak. You're going to be using the indirect method. Set up your indirect zone cooking, right? Put the steak on the opposite side, drop the temperatures as low as you can, around 250 degrees, and then add a chunk of wood. While the steak's being cooked indirectly, let the wood infuse the steak with smoke. It's going to absolutely change your perspective on steak. It's going to taste delicious, and at the end when you go to sear it, again, you're going to be using the reverse sear method, getting that char infused with the clean smoke. It's going to be one of the best steaks you ever had. The second method, again, this is going to be also an indirect method. Same way, you're going to do indirect 2-zone cooking, but this time I want you to smoke a whole chicken or a spatchcock chicken, whatever you feel comfortable with. We're going to add a little bit more smoke. We're going to drop the temperatures again, maybe add 2 wood chunks, whatever wood chunks that you want. Chicken tends to go really good with apple and hickory or mesquite. And I want you to smoke the chicken for about an hour or until the wood chunks are done. And then bump up the temperatures to 375, 400 degrees, crisp up that skin, get it to the desired internal temperature that you want, and then try the chicken out. It's going to be delicious again. And then finally, the third method, when you're up for it, do some barbecue beef ribs. Barbecue beef ribs take about 5 to 6 hours to smoke. I did a video a long time ago on how to smoke barbecue beef ribs. It's sort of old and needs to be updated, so maybe I'll make a future video diving into the details. But again, barbecue beef ribs take about 5 to 6 hours, sometimes 8 hours, depending on the cut. Smoke them low and slow. You'll know when they're ready. Get a toothpick, and if you can push through without any resistance, then the barbecue beef ribs are done. Just make sure you get them thick with lots of meat. Don't get thin barbecue beef ribs. They'll dry out before you even had a chance to really enjoy the smoke flavor, and then it won't be very good. Now the barbecue beef ribs are a little bit more involved. Google a recipe, try to stick with it though, and just remember what I taught you here today. And then finally, this is a bonus one. When you're ready, try to smoke up a beef brisket. If you can, get a Weber diffuser plate. I think it's worth the investment. Do low and slow, set it up. I have a couple of videos on that. If you're interested, leave me a comment and I'll shoot you the link. But if you don't want to buy the Weber diffuser plate, learn the snake method. When you can smoke up a brisket and when you're happy with the results and you get the bark that you want, all that stuff, congratulations. You've really hit that intermediate experience level with the Weber Kettle Grill. That's it for me, guys. I hope you found this video informative, and if you did, please consider subscribing and joining our channel memberships. I'll catch you on the next video. Take care, everybody.